Take a walk with destiny. Walk on the trail of your life. Live your soul's purpose. Hosted by Jessica Joins, each show is dedicated to revealing your true calling and living a life of fulfillment. Each guest brings inspirational stories that help clear the way for your higher calling. You can listen to her show once a month on the uimediaapp.com, WDJY 99.1 FM, WTTA 101.2 FM, Talk10FM.com, Facebook Live on United Intentions, Spreaker, and many other platforms. Want to join the conversation? Call in now at 678-495-4345. So let's unwind, rest your mind, and let your spirit free to find your soul purpose.
Hello and welcome to Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins, the show where we help you uncover and start living your soul purpose. We have a great show this evening for you. I'll be bringing on our first guest, Laura Rubin, in just a minute here. But first, I want to give a special shout out to our friends at WDJY 99.1 FM and our friends at WTTA 101.2 FM in Kentucky and Ohio. It is September 21st. It's almost the equinox. How is everyone doing? You know, last month I was talking about how I was getting ready to go on my vacation, and it was my first time like stepping out of my daily, coronavirus quarantine routine, and it was amazing. I drove 8 hours to Tucson. I was in the desert. And let me just say, like, breaking up the monotony of, our little daily coronavirus routines was incredible. So I hope that whatever you're doing, you've been able to get out. I know we're officially at the end of summer, but I hope you've been able to get out and enjoy yourself and whatever you're doing. And so a lot going on in the world right now that I know we continue to be having revealed to us all that needs to be healed. And so I just say to you, wherever you are, and no matter how you're feeling and what's going on for you, your journey right now is to look within, to honor what's within, and to also look at what's being revealed to you. This is a time of incredible and profound healing. So that is really the work that is before each of us. And so I wish you well on that, and know that I'm here as a source of support if you need it. I know it's not easy right now. And so as we do each month, we are currently breaking down the lessons in my book, Dare to Believe. Tonight, we are on lesson 5, which is one of my favorites. And this lesson is to release the limiting beliefs that bind you. So limiting beliefs are exactly as they sound. They're anywhere that you are believing in limitation about yourself, others, the world. Beliefs in things like scarcity that cause you to act from a place of, I'm competing, or being jealous of what others have because you think you're not going to get it. So I have a lot of experience with limiting beliefs, and they really impact us when we're trying to step into our purpose. At least it did for me, because they really serve as blockers. Many times the closer that you get to the purpose, like the louder the limitation gets. For me, a couple that I had when I was first stepping back into this work was, the one thing I believed, I thought other people have a soul calling, but I somehow didn't. I thought it was like this fate thing where really special people or whatever had it, like an Oprah or whatever, and not everyone did. And so because I didn't believe that everyone had a soul calling, I was believing in this limited view. It took me a long time to believe in the potential and possibility of mine. Another one that is huge, and almost everyone that comes to me has this one, is the belief that to step into living my dreams, to step into living my soul purpose is always a path to poverty, right? That I'm going to have to sacrifice wealth and sacrifice abundance. And this is a really big one too. And I often say, well, then is the universe cruel? Right? Because a soul calling is something that comes from the universe that you're guiding to, that you're guiding towards. And so do you think that the universe gives you a desire, a purpose, something you truly love and want to do more than anything, but is only a path to poverty? So sometimes we have to rethink how we're thinking about that belief. But the net is to step into living your soul calling, to step into your purpose, limitation and limited thinking will inherently come up. And I can't wait to ask our guest tonight what came up for her. But this is part of the process. And so understanding how you're believing in limitation is really important. And in the book, it's probably one of the most robust lessons that I actually walk you through. And what you do when you really want to start tackling your limiting beliefs, and it can be purpose, it can be anything. The truth is that any area of your life where you're feeling challenged, you are likely somehow believing in limitation. It kind of goes hand in hand. You believe in limitation, you cause your own suffering. It manifests as a problem in your life. So that's the first thing. But what you want to do is first identify the limiting beliefs. Then you want to get transparent about it. With awareness and bringing things into the light is how you heal stuff. So you want to look at what are the root causes of these limiting beliefs? Like, where did these come from? Where did I get them? Okay. And then you also want to get transparency around what they're blocking. So you can clearly see, oh, by believing I don't have a soul purpose, I'm not taking any action towards manifesting one or stepping into one, right? So you want to get really transparent and clear. What stays vague and unclear really can have power over you. So it's about bringing the stuff up into the light. And then the fourth step I outline in the book is to then choose a new belief. You chose the limiting belief that you currently have. You can choose a new one. And sometimes we forget how empowered we are. We get in a little bit of a state of unconsciousness, like our beliefs are something that just happened to us. We forget that we actually chose them and that we choose them again each day. So that's the lesson in a nutshell. And so with that, I'm going to do our 3 and 3 for this lesson, which is 3 truths and 3 things you can do right now as it relates to this lesson. So our first truth for this lesson is we all have limiting beliefs. Okay. So unless you're like a total full-on spiritual master, like one of the 20, at a time, maybe ascended beings walking the planet, you most likely believe in limitations somewhere in your life, even perhaps subconsciously, I hate to tell you. But it's really just being like, cool, I have them. Everyone does. It's fine. Okay. The second truth is that many of them actually come from your upbringing. We get a lot of this stuff as kids. There's a famous saying here in the US, it's like money doesn't grow on trees, right? Like if you were told that as a kid, you might have some real limiting beliefs around abundance. So, if you were told you weren't worthy or, went through even different forms of abuse, you formulate things, right? And you don't have to go through any abuse to formulate limiting beliefs at all. But it's just understanding a lot of it comes from how you grew up. And then the third truth about this is most of us fall into one of 2 major kind of thought patterns around limiting beliefs. And that's victim consciousness and survival consciousness. So viewing the world as something really tough that you're just trying to survive. The world is something happening to me. I'm not choosing it, victim consciousness. And survival consciousness, like you're just here to try to survive. And there's a whole slew of limiting beliefs that can fall under that. But most of us fall into both those categories. So it's a really good place to start. Okay. And so then finally of our 3 and 3, the 3 things you can start doing right now to start tackling this. Number 1, go back in your history and you really get curious about it and just look at from an objective perspective, all the things you learned about limitation as far as you can remember, understand. It's a really great place to start. Number 2, transparency and awareness. Ask, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Get really curious till you get to the roots and really understand what it's about, where it's coming from, how it's blocking you, preventing you from, doing things you'd like to do, what have you right now. Transparency is healing. And then 3, claim your power to choose a new belief. Like I said before, you created it, you can choose a new one. And when you choose a new belief, put it in the present tense, right? Like you're anchoring it in, it's happening now. Okay, so that's enough on that for now. What I want to do is bring on our guest, but I want to tell you a little bit about her first. Laura Rubin, she is a creativity coach and founder of AllSwell. In addition to making notebooks and other tools for writing and drawing, AllSwell hosts journaling workshops that are intended to unplug creativity and connect communities. So welcome to the show, Laura.
Oh, Jessica, thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor and a pleasure to be in conversation with you, truly.
Oh, thank you. I mean, so Laura and I, we sort of know each other, right? We have a really good mutual friend that connected us when I moved out to LA, and it was just such an instant soul connection, as it always is with anyone else on their own soul purpose journey, I find. But I think even if that wasn't the case, we would have just felt so much in common and so much soul connection there for sure.
Every opportunity that I have to connect with you, it just, I walk away feeling better for it. And that's a real gift you give to all of us. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. So I want to start, if you don't mind. I love when folks who are really in it and you're in the journey, you've built a successful soul purpose journey, really go back and share a little bit back to the beginning and how they got there. And I know you've had this soul purpose business for a while, but it's not where you started. We have a lot in common on this front too. You were in New York, you were in publishing, you were in the corporate world. I was media, slightly different, but not really. Can you talk to us a little bit and share a little bit about that journey and really where you started?
Yeah, with pleasure. I come from a completely different perspective that is entirely non-entrepreneurial. I come from a family of good corporate soldiers, and we've got, immigrant work ethic. And the idea was do a good job and you'll be rewarded. And that was the perspective that I brought to my career initially. And I just got this sense as I moved up the corporate ladder that pretty quickly as a young woman, that there was something far greater than what I was doing. The commute into Midtown and working in a hermetically sealed building, the walls were gray and the men were gray and the subject matter was gray. And I felt that there had to be something more. And despite having gotten to the point where I was essentially at the top of the food chain for what I was doing, I'd gotten to the top of the heap and I said, this is the wrong heap. This is not for me. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I just knew that I couldn't do that anymore. And I said, I'm going to take 6 months off and I'm going to get my head out of a vice and detox. And initially, the opportunity to become an entrepreneur was presented to me because people heard I was at loose ends and asked me to start consulting. And I said, sure, yeah. And I figured I'd do that work until it dried up and then I'd go get a job. But a year went by and I was really enjoying the process of working with small to medium-sized businesses, creatives, fashion designers, nonprofit organizations, helping them with my corporate perspective and the quality of that kind of training I had received and applying it to these creative people and their businesses. So that was the first pivot. The second pivot came many years later. I was running this consulting company and it had grown, and I realized that I essentially was living my life as two people. On one hand, I was out on the east end of Long Island. I had sand in my hair. I was surfing and doing yoga and living this lifestyle where I was very close to and in nature, versus my work life where I felt like I was a completely separate person, literally looked different, sounded different, the whole bit. And I said to myself, no, at this point it is inauthentic. And despite the fact that fashion at that point was 70% of my income, I said, I am going to dedicate my business entirely and wholly to things that are in line with my personal ethos. And then my consulting business rapidly grew, because when you are in alignment with your true purpose, people feel it and they're drawn to you, right? It just becomes something that is communicable, right? Like, and that people want to be part of. So that was the second pivot. The third pivot came multiple years later. After I'd grown this incredible business, I was working with these clients that were world champion surfers who were giving back through beautiful autobiographical books, best in class international charities that were working on environmental initiatives, female entrepreneurs that were doing incredible work in the space of athletics and wellness, you name it. Like, this was my dream. And I was bi-coastal. I had a team of 15, and I should have been the happiest camper. I was exhausted.
And you weren't. Yeah.
And where the next pivot came.
Wow. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, but I want to pick this up right when we get back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. We'll be right back.
This is Kurt Arsenault of Arsenault Advisory Group. Do you make a six-figure income but live paycheck to paycheck? You're not alone. Many six-figure income households will buy too much home and too much car, creating tremendous financial stress that builds debt when you should be building wealth. If you make six figures and live paycheck to paycheck, visit arsenaultadvisory.com and download our free ebook titled, I Make Six Figures and Live Paycheck to Paycheck. You have nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com today.
Welcome back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins, and we're talking with Laura Rubin. Real quick, I want to remind everyone that we want to take your questions live. So if you want to put me or Laura like on the spot right now, call 678-495-4345 and ask us your questions. We really want them. And also want to remind everyone to stay updated with all of our uncensored content at uimedianetwork.org. And we're back with Laura, and you're talking about the pivot of, when everything just seemed like you were kind of, wasn't working for you anymore, right?
I should have been the happiest camper.
Yeah.
I thought everything that I said that I wanted. I had achieved all of this meaning, and yet I was incredibly run down. I was never not jet lagged. I just didn't feel in alignment. And it was through a discussion with somebody who is a dear friend of mine. Her name is Donna James, and she wrote this book called The Archetypal Diet. I went to go see her speak at Cat Beauty, and was so impressed with my friend, who also happens to be this amazing rock star, that I booked a session with her because she's bicoastal and she always looks fresh as a daisy. Meanwhile, I'm bicoastal and I feel like somebody had to drag me out from under the couch. And booked a session with her, thinking this was all going to be about diet and nutrition. And she looked over my questionnaire and was like, yeah, your diet's beautiful. The problem is that you're living a superwoman lifestyle, but you're actually a creative. And I looked at her and I said, what are you talking about? No, I'm not a creative. I support the creativity of others. That is what I do. I'm the girl behind the girl. I run this business. This is what I do. And I support and I champion all these other people. And she was like, yeah, And then she asked me a series of questions about how I was feeling and do I need a bunch of time alone and what I was like as a kid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the light bulb went off. And once I had that realization that was facilitated by a member of my female community, I changed everything. I started to wind down my business. I chose a coast, and this AllSwell, this passion project that I had started because I so badly needed a creative outlet of my own, it became my main expression of my business and of what I'm bringing into the world.
Wow. I didn't even fully understand the details of your story and how similar, I had the health breakdown on all fronts, like the mental, emotional, and physical and all of that. And I'm always curious, my hindsight is always 20/20, right? But I know in my 20s, when I first went into my first corporate job, out of college in advertising, I never liked it. I was always God, I can't believe this is life. It was this feeling of disillusionment that after working so hard in college and my whole life for this, I'm going to do this every day. It was it gave me, I literally did have panic attacks. So, it really, but I didn't fully understand what it was until later. And I have to think about because this wasn't forced on me. I'm where did the storyline come that to be happy or successful, I had to be some big corporate superstar woman, do you ever think about that and know where your storylines came from that formulated that?
Absolutely. And, one thing that I want to point out that I think that you speak to so beautifully is, just because we're good at something doesn't mean that it's what we're meant to do.
Totally.
We're good at a lot of things, right? you have been successful at various different things, but you enjoyed some of them more than you did others. And just because we are good at something and a segment of the market is rewarding us for our excellence at it, doesn't mean that that's our sole purpose.
Yeah, and good doesn't equal purpose. It's like this survival mindset. Oh, what am I good at? Because I got to compete, right?
Ooh, yeah. Right. What am I being rewarded by this particular system that I bought into that is saying, oh, yes, we'll let you climb this ladder and let you have this existence. It's only when I dropped into my own voice that through the act of putting pen to paper, that I started to understand that I had more autonomy, that I could create my own system, that I could create a network of systems, that I could bring more to people, that my life could mean more for myself, and that I could do more for others. And it was only through the act of putting pen to paper that I was able to really tap into not the static of what was being told to me in the mirrors, even some of the really, really positive mirrors that were providing me with information. No, the source of information that came from within was where I really needed to go.
Yeah. There's in purpose theory, which I know, it is like, how is it told? Basically it's like once you step in and you're in your calling, it's like all the little puzzle pieces of your life immediate click into place. And you're like, oh, I know why I had to go through that. I know how to, like, all of a sudden your whole life up to that point and the different experiences you have that maybe at some point you're like, God, why is this happening to me? Makes sense. Did you have any of those clicks or things that you're able to look back upon with different reverence? And if so, what were those?
So many of them and so many times.
Yeah.
And, I mentioned that I had multiple pivots specifically because I'm thinking of some of the people out there who might be listening to this and that they think, well, I picked this goal and now I'm working towards the goal and I'm attaining the goal and it doesn't feel quite right. Well, I'll just work harder. Sometimes you pick a dream, you live into the dream, you achieve the dream, and it's time for a new dream. And that's okay.
Totally.
That the idea of there being one single sole purpose over the course of a lifetime, I think applies to some, but it may not apply to all.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I found the work that I was doing with charities and supporting entrepreneurs to be enormously satisfying for a period of time. And then it was time for me to move on. I had progressed. It was time for me to move into the next stage of my personal and professional and creative development. So that's why I mentioned 1, 2, 3 pivots. They all were informative and they all stacked upon each other. And when I look back at a lot of things that were perhaps very difficult, reflecting your question, that there were times where, my programming is work harder. And sometimes those things are being put in your path, not for you to beat your head against the wall, but as a way of saying, no, over there, not over here, over there. Now, this isn't an invitation to be lazy, right? No, work hard at something you love and respect. Absolutely. It's a joy to put that kind of energy into it. But sometimes now I can see in retrospect and with the grace of having some years behind me to see that there were often those times where things were the most difficult, where the most grace was operating for my benefit because they were road signs.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Yeah. Well, even looking on tonight's theme around limiting beliefs, what would you say the limiting belief was about around hard work, if you had to guess? Because it might be useful to others.
Yes, that the idea that I could, through focus, intent, time, and energy, untie almost any knot. That any problem that was presented, if I brought all of my resources to bear, I would be able to ameliorate the problem before me. Well, sometimes that's not true. And sometimes that's not a good use of all of your resources, right? And for you to bring that level of super intensity of all of that stuff on an ongoing basis, that's a recipe for burnout as well.
Yeah. And what I think is fascinating and interesting about your story, which again, I didn't realize before we're having this conversation, is the identity shift of how, the identity you had that you're behind the scenes, for lack of a better word, that you're the supporter rather than you're the creative. What was that process of acceptance like for you?
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Really uncomfortable. I was so awkward initially about presenting myself as having this expertise that I would, like, for instance, my first bio photo on my website of AllSwell, I stacked up all of my journals from when I was 8 years old, stacks and stacks and stacks of them, and had a fancy photographer, a friend of mine, take a beautiful portrait shot of them. And that's what I used as my bio photo. And I thought that was really clever, right? Because this represents me as truly as anything. You know what it wasn't? It wasn't a picture of me. So
right.
I had to, right? Like, I had to really get comfortable with the discomfort of letting my voice be heard, of presenting the wisdom that I've accrued over lots of time and study and experience. And it was really hard.
And allowing yourself to be seen, it sounds like, to really be seen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have this quote on your website, which I love. It's beautiful. And my feeling is it gets at the essence of not only who you are and what AllSwell is, which I do want to talk about, but it says, life is a creative act. It really is. What does that mean to you? And how, so what is that? I think it says life is a creative act. It really is. So talk to me like a little bit, Laura, like, what does that mean to you, and how do you live that not only in, the manifestation of this business, but in how you're working with others?
So AllSwell was created very much, as I said, as a passion project, because I'm a lifelong journaler, and I felt that journaling had a really bad PR problem. And it was more associated with teen girl angst and, heavily scented bath bombs and the legitimate mental health modality that it actually is. And so what I was trying to do with AllSwell was shift the narrative around it and present it initially with products that were gender neutral, well-designed, and thoughtfully created as a way of moving the conversation. It was then out of the products that I heard back from the marketplace that this thing that I'd always known how to do, I'd never not done it, right? I'd done it since I was a single digit. People had all of this concern about whether they were doing it right, or they felt they couldn't do it. They thought they were bad at it. And so that's where the workshops came in. And so it was through the marketplace expressing to me this need that I understood that I could potentially utilize all my experience in real-time events as an editor and a writer, and put together a helpful curriculum to support people and invite them to the page. Now, the reason for all of this is because my fundamental belief is our lives are an ongoing creative act. We are participating in the creation of our lives every moment of every day.
Yeah.
And I kind of hide the broccoli and the mashed potatoes a little bit when, I'm talking about my brand, because that's a big concept. That's a really big concept for people. But if we understand what our own innate voice sounds like, then we're more likely to able to recognize what isn't in alignment with that voice, and also what that voice has to say, right?
Yes.
What I love about this work is that I'm not telling anybody what to write.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm bringing them to the page. I'm giving them all the scientific research so that they understand and better prioritize the experience. And then I let them loose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been to some of your workshops, and, the feeling I would describe is just, it's very inviting. It's very, open. And you're right. I've noticed that. I've never experienced it myself, but I've noticed in a lot of people with journaling in particular, like, how do I do it? Because even in coaching, I'll give people a writing assignment. I guess it's just like a fear of really like letting your true voice come through that, feels scary to people, and then I think with women a lot, and I know you don't just work with women because, there's definitely both genders, but for me, it's like this, oh my God, we're just really hard on ourselves. I have to do it right. And this kind of like addiction to perfectionism that we have. But anyway, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we're going to keep talking with Laura Rubin when I come back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. Jessica Joins, author, spiritual coach, and inspirational speaker. Understanding your soul purpose is the most important work you will ever do. It's the key to unlocking your true potential and happiness. And that's why I'm so happy to announce that you now have the opportunity to have your most important soul purpose questions answered by me live on air. That's right. I'll tackle your most important questions about how to step into living your life's true calling on my show, Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. So if there are big questions or challenges you've been wanting answers to help with your soul purpose journey, here's your chance. Write to me at contact@uimedianetwork.org and you might get a chance to be featured on my show. Welcome back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. We're talking with Laura Rubin. Real quick, I want to remind everyone that you can connect with us online. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spreaker, and other podcasting platforms as UI Media Network. And also, if you're looking for an opportunity to work for a conscious media network, UI Media is looking for like-minded interns to assist in getting the network's message out. You can email us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to connect. And before we continue our conversation with Laura, I want to make time for one email I got recently from a viewer, one or two, and maybe we'll even ask Laura to weigh in on some of these. The first one here, I'm going to read it aloud. This is from Brittany in Akron, Ohio. And she says, "Dear Jessica, I am in a lot of fear about everything happening in the world." She uses a profanity. I won't, but she says, WTF is going on? And how do I manage? Look, Brittany, this is a profound time of transformation and healing, but it's not easy. And I think in moments, the only thing we can do is look at what's coming up for us. There's this kind of famous quote that says, "The change that will save you is a personal one. The change that will save the world is a personal one." And so really allow yourself to be with whatever is coming up with you. Sit with that fear. Allow yourself to feel that fear, to feel that anger, to feel whatever is coming up for you, because that's really how you initiate your own healing process. But at the same time, there are moments when sometimes it just comes down to your personal relationships and surrender and faith. And whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whatever it is for you, but there are moments in life, and I believe this is really one of them for the collective in so many ways, where it just comes down to that practice and that relationship. And it is a very personal one as well. I believe we're heading somewhere beautiful. That's my personal belief, but I believe the road to get there is very messy right now. We'll do one more really quick. It's Dear Jessica. This is from Hala in Atlanta. "Dear Jessica, I know you say everyone has a soul purpose, but sometimes I just don't think I do. Help." I've been there. I know it. And so what I would say, and I actually want to hear Laura's feedback on this if she has it, is just get curious about yourself. Be open to receiving information about it. Get curious about it. Do a little daily prayer to the universe. Like, if I've got it, show me. I'm open to receiving whatever information about it is, and get curious about yourself and what you feel resonance with and what you have passion around, rather than be attached to finding it, which is a tough kind of hard energy. Instead, be curious about rediscovering you and getting to know who you are. I don't know, Laura, you have anything you want to say?
Oh, I love that idea of curiosity and resonance. I think those two concepts are really important. What I call my personal creative process is following the breadcrumbs, right? And so what I find is that through the lens of curiosity that you suggested, that just be open, be curious, and see where it leads you. It might not be something that is clear initially, but maybe it's a particular image, maybe it's a place, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a topic, maybe it's a photograph, maybe it's just a shard of a conversation or a quote in a book. Stay open and follow the breadcrumbs. It really is as simple and as complex as that. Because if you're aware, just as you said, just ask the question, ask for the awareness to come find you, and then do the work of being curious and giving yourself over to that process and write it down. Write it down. Now, personally, I'm a big fan of pen to paper, right? I think that we are also digitally connected in this age. We do not need more typing time. And I also, based on the research that I've read, this idea of the motor action moving across the page, there are synaptic connections that get made in our brain that provide us with additional benefits. So in order to get all that yummy, good mental, emotional, and physiological upside, pen to paper.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I did not know that. I do some pen to paper, but definitely not as much as I used to. I used to journal every day. I've fallen out of it. Laura, you have to get me back in it.
It's okay. But Jessica, I think, it's there should be no journaling guilt, right?
Totally. Right.
There's like self-care pressure. And I would like right here, right now, to just take that off the table. It's okay. Just come back to it. It's there for you whenever you want it. Isn't that a much more beautiful way of relating to it?
Yes, 100%. So talk to us. What does AllSwell look like today?
It's amazing. I can't even believe what I get to do on a day-to-day basis. We have a whole bunch of series of different digital workshops. Right now, we're not commuting in real time because it's not safe at the moment, but we will go back to real-time community gatherings when the time is right. We have regular Zoom-based workshops, Instagram Live events, and I also provide one-to-one coaching services for people who are focused on things like they may have a creative project that they're looking to birth, or they're not quite sure what they want to be doing, or they're bumping up against some blocks in their creativity. And I'm working with people all over the world on this. And it's really been just so beautiful and gratifying to see how the act of putting pen to paper really is supporting people at all different points in their lives.
Yeah. No, the title Creativity Coach, I'm so glad you said that. I mean, I know it's a title, but can you give some examples of what that might, because I think it's so fascinating and so needed, how that transpires or what it actually looks like?
Yes, absolutely. So what's interesting is that, again, the marketplace came to me and asked me for this assistance, right? Again, it's like following the breadcrumbs, and yeah. I was open to it. So, working with different people on deadlines that they're having trouble meeting, working with people who have ideas for a project, but they're not sure how to start, or they need the accountability and the consistency of having somebody to work with in order to birth that project. I work with some people who are entrepreneurs, but they are having trouble finding their voice and describing the business, or describing not just the what, but the why of what they're doing. And it really ranges. I work with a few executives on trying to bring more creativity into their day-to-day, so that they're having more of a sense of play.
I love that. Yeah.
I work with groups in group settings, more of like a B2B kind of environment for small groups. Maybe it's I'm brought in sometimes by a CMO to help with an overall feeling of well-being in the organization, and to help people become more creative and also be more empathetic in the acceptance of another colleague's creativity. It really ranges.
Yeah. You brought up just a little bit there, just talking about even, helping other entrepreneurs, but, like so many of us, when we step in the soul purpose journey, we often find ourselves becoming entrepreneurs, right? It's kind of how it can work sometimes. What has that journey been like for you? And what have been some of the highs and lows within that you feel like sharing?
Jessica, I have been self-employed for nearly 18 years, right?
That's right. Because you had your consultancy before this. Yeah.
Exactly. So essentially, I think I am more or less unemployable at this point because I am so used to just marching at the beat of my own drummer. And I love it. I recognize it's not a lifestyle for everybody. I operate without a net, and that is uncomfortable for some people. For me, I am my own net, and I believe in my own capabilities, and I would rather take that. My palette for risk is not massive, but it is, whether it's like risk reward. And for me, the opportunity to follow the breadcrumbs and to have this experience in my lifetime, to do this kind of work and have this amount of freedom to explore, is so worth the degree of risk that I'm putting myself at by being self-employed. And that is a very real equation. And you have to tap into whether or not you're really ready for that as an individual, particularly the first 4 years, because that's the toughest. Then you get to the 2-year mark, that's a big one, and the 4-year mark, that's another really big one.
Yeah. Well, I think about all the people, and I know you know so many of them too, just even here in the LA area, that were launching businesses this year, like the COVID year. I know for you, and it was the same for me, like you really figured out how to innovate quickly. And I think it's been really beneficial for you, right?
Yes, it has. Because my whole ethos was analog connectivity.
Yeah.
And so I really eschewed the whole idea of providing these experiences by a digital medium. But it quickly became evident to me that I wasn't going to be able to be of service at all unless I overcame my own internal bias and embrace a space that might actually be really beneficial. And as a result, instead of limiting my workshops to, say, 30 or 40 people, I now have several, like hundreds, or, the workshop that I did for a group has, I think, almost 8,000 views. So the idea that I have, because of getting over my own limiting beliefs, now been able to provide so much more benefit to a larger audience. It's like you never stop learning. You never stop growing. Yeah. Even despite the fact that I'm in my soul purpose work, I still had limiting beliefs that I needed to
totally. It always happens. And I know we only have a couple minutes left. Really quick. So someone's watching, listening, they haven't journaled before and they want to get started. What do you say?
Give yourself permission. There is no third-party reader. It's just for you. And there's no doing it wrong. Just quiet your mind, sit, feel your feet on the floor, feel the pen in your hand, see what emerges. Just take 4 minutes, just 4 minutes, and see what comes to the surface. And there's, again, you are not trying to sound like Sylvia Plath or Faulkner or Hemingway. You're just trying to sound like you, and let that voice emerge.
Yeah. Don't take on the guilt I took on, guys, at all. It's not worth it.
Right here, right now. I'm telling you, no guilt. It's okay.
Yeah. And then same question on creativity before we go, because I know that's you're talking journaling as expression, but you're a creative. If people want to create more creativity or play into their life, again, what do you say?
It's very similar.
Permission.
Really. Because again, that whole concept of limiting beliefs, that perfectionism is the absolute, it will cancel out your ability to create that first draft. You have to start somewhere and just play a little. Give yourself the chance to have that experience without this idea of it being necessarily about productivity. And step away from the loop of productivity as your personal bias as far as like what's important. Play is really important too. And by the way, it might end up being something that's incredibly productive along the way.
Definitely. So what do you got coming up? I know you're doing a workshop at the Women's Purpose Retreat in October, so I'll tee that one up for you. But what else you got going on?
About that particular experience. You've put together such an incredible group of powerhouse, amazing women. I'm honored to share that space with them and with you. I also have a workshop coming up on September 30th that's specifically about journaling through loss. Right now, this is such a time of a lot of grief and heaviness for folks, and utilizing this medium as a way of providing people with rituals so that they can better heal through creativity. That's coming up soon.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Real quick, what's your website?
It is AllSwell, ALLSWELL, creative.com. And our Instagram handle is @AllSwellCreative. I personally answer every single DM. So if anybody has a question or a need, they can reach out.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Laura. We're so grateful to have you. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Trisha Stezzi. When we come back, this is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins.
Thank you, Jessica.
If this content resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel at uimedianetwork.org to stay updated with our uncensored shows. Also, like and follow us at UI Media Network on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and almost all your favorite podcasting platforms. Most importantly, if you're being censored on social media, write to us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to get your message out. And remember, keep raising that frequency.
Welcome back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. So I want to remind everyone, or actually announce to everyone, to tune in on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern for a new episode of the Meza Live Show with fashion expert Jacqueline Grunn and professional ski instructor Nicole Iroff. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, as they are going to interview chef and restaurateur Blas Nowak. So I am so excited to bring on our next guest. Trisha Stezzi is the founder of Significance, and she has recently launched a new learning platform called Significance Learning. Kind of spoiler alert, I'm also a part of this and have something coming up on it, but I wanted to bring Trisha on to talk about it. Welcome to the show, Trisha.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. I love your show.
So tell us a little bit about the Significance Learning platform. What is it?
Yeah, so there's this moment in time right now where people are asking big questions, and they're wanting and craving something deeper, and they may recognize that their life is not aligned with their deepest truths, but they get stuck right there, and they have a hard time actually making real transformation. So that's where the Significance Learning Center comes in. So what we do is we provide the personalized support and guidance that people need to really dig deep and get the inner clarity that they need to get unstuck and actually transform their life into something that's aligned, and so they can create that fulfilling life that they're craving.
That's amazing. And it's, as I understand, it's taught, I mean, I know mine is, but all the classes are taught live, correct?
Exactly. So we have world-class instructors, including yourself, and they're all different. Everyone has like a different superpower that they share in their own way and their own style. So each class is a little different, but they're all highly engaging, because the idea here is that, we're all isolated and we really need this one-on-one support. So you'll be engaging directly with your instructors and with your students in your class. So it kind of creates this wonderful environment, because you're all on this journey together, and you're all supporting each other in, digging deep and taking the action to really make the change. And so that's what it's all about.
Can you tell us about some of the courses and who some of the other teachers are?
Absolutely. So I'm so thrilled and honored to be launching with John Hagel, who is, well known for his recent chairmanship and founding of the Deloitte Center for the Edge. So he is going to be teaching people how to discover and evolve their personal narrative so that they can help them transform their life, and so they can experience and live more of their potential. So what he's going to be doing, you actually get access to him, which is a big deal. For a 3-part course, you're working directly with him and only 40 people in the class. And so he'll be like workshopping. And this is also a sneak peek into his new book, which is coming out soon. So you're getting advanced notice and advanced access to work directly with him and apply this knowledge in your own life.
And his course is about your personal narrative, which kind of ties to some of, I know you weren't on earlier, some of the themes we were talking about tonight. Like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And so, our courses are great for individuals, and they're also good for corporate environment, if, for leadership development. So one of our other speakers, Nalima Bat, for example, she does a course based on her book called Shakti Leadership, which is about balancing the feminine and the masculine in business and in life. And so she, takes you through this entire process, and it's so enlightening. It's like, you come away with an entire model of how to lead and not leave half of your power on the table, basically. So beautiful. It's tremendous. It's a great way to go through life and to lead and be a more conscious leader.
Amazing. And these are all like significant courses. They're like anywhere from 5 weeks, you got 10 weeks. It's like that kind of a range of stuff going on, right?
Right. So, to really do this work and really make change, it's good to get started. Like we actually offer free videos so you can kind of test the waters and give something a try. But to actually make, lasting change, you really need to dig in and do the work. So these are classes about, really working together, doing some homework, coming back, reflecting, so that in the end you have a true transformation. You can see, you went from point A to point B. And I'm so excited actually about your class, because if you'll indulge me, I would love to share a little bit about it. Because
of course, Trisha.
So, because actually, what you teach is actually what I have done in my life. So I just believe in it from my own personal experience, and I'm so thrilled to get it out to more people. But so I want you to actually share a little bit about it. But what I love is that you're reaching younger audiences, because why wait till we're halfway through our life to kind of figure this stuff out? Get on the track earlier.
I know. Well, you told me you wanted to ask me some questions about it, and I started like, this is my talk show. But I'll let our viewers know it's called Find a Calling, Not a Career. Trisha, whatever the questions you wanted to ask me, you can put me on the spot, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Excellent. Yeah, here we go. So I know that you believe that the idea of a career, or like pursuing a career, is dead. And can you tell us why you believe that?
Yeah, no, that's such a good one. So for me, it's what a career represents and like why we pursue it. And I think most of us go into wanting a career because we're thinking about things like success and achievement, and we're really prioritizing that over what our prior guest was talking about, which is really like understanding what we really want, where our heart is really calling us. And it seems to take a back burner in the find a career conversation. If you talk to a traditional career consultant or a career coach, they're going to they're going to give you assessments on like your gifts, your skills. It's all from this kind of survival and achievement based mindset that I think ultimately doesn't serve you at the end of the day. I know it didn't for me. And, like our prior guests, it's like I climbed all the way to the top, and it wasn't what I thought it would be.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, and I touched on this earlier. I understand why it's so important to reach a younger audience. I want to hear from you why it's so important to you.
Yeah, I really want to. I told you when we were doing this that I wanted to try to reach a younger audience with it, though all are welcome. If you're at all unhappy in your career or stepping into your career, you're a fit for this class. But because I want to save them the pain of what I went through. It took me until I was 40 years old to have like the insight, like, oh, all that stuff I really want and desire, like the stuff I dream about in my heart, is there because that's what I'm meant to be doing, because that's my truth. It was such an aha moment. And, it was 20 something years of just a lot of unnecessary suffering. So it's like, I want to encourage people to really approach, the most sacred decision, what you're going to choose to do with every day of your life, from a deeper more soul connected place, rather than this survival mindset, which is what really permeates career pursuits for most and decisions. Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
Really, really great point. Yeah. Well, you may have touched on this a little bit, but how will your course help a participant in their life? Like, what is the transformation?
I mean, it's a transformation course. So we're doing, I think, is an 8-week course. I don't remember exactly, in 3 parts starting in November. And for me, I'm not just about theory. I'm about taking tangible action. Even in my book and the lessons that we've been breaking down, my whole goal with it was to make it practical, simple, and like everyone knows what they do each day to get stuff done. Right. So for me, it's about impact. And if you're unhappy in a career, by the end of this course, you'll have identified, your potential calling, and you'll have taken steps already to start being in that. If you're in the beginning of your career, same thing, you will have identified 2 to 3 potential soul callings, and you will be on a plan and a path towards the manifestation of that. So it is like a big life change. And look, you don't have to do them during the course if you're not ready. I won't push you, but the opportunity will be there for you to do it. I
love it. It's so perfect. It fits completely in with our mission of everything is about taking action, and our rallying cry of do something significant in the small and big moments. So it's getting clear and then taking the action is really that's what builds your life. So I'm so thankful that you'll be, in our platform, and we'll be reaching out to more people, getting to them earlier so they can avoid the suffering.
So what's the website? If people are interested, where can they go for more information?
Yeah, so they can come to www.dosomethingsignificant.com and definitely sign up and subscribe for a community so you'll get our newsletter. And like I said, each of our instructors offers a free training, so definitely indulge in those. You'll learn a lot. They're really amazing, including Jessica's. And then then that gives you kind of a taste test onto if something's resonating with you, you may want to join one of our courses. We have 3 enrolling right now.
Yeah, amazing. So everyone go there. And Trisha, thank you for being on. Thank you so much. Thanks. And I'll have you stick around and listen to one of my final letters from a viewer if you want. You might have something to say about it. Okay, so we have time for 1, maybe 2 more letters. The first one says, Dear Jessica, you talk a lot about loving, not conquering the ego. Can you explain this more? And this is from Holly in Atlanta. Look, the ego is not something you conquer. It wants to be conquered, but it's a heavier fear-based energy. So if you really want to loosen your alignment with your ego, you have to have compassion for it. You have to view it as like a small hurt child that misperceives the world, that doesn't fully understand the world. And you kind of got to love that aspect of it. So like this kind of like battling it energy just doesn't work. Anything you want to add there, Trisha, at all about the ego?
Oh man, I think that that's part of our journey here is to kind of figure out how to balance out the ego that's there and live from more of a conscious place. So
yeah,
it's good to be aware.
So many spiritual teachings, they say, I'll kind of say this, they say conquering it. It's really a false idea. Like you don't meet fear with fear or anger. You meet fear with love, as kind of cheesy as it might sound.
I agree.
I think we have time for one more. And this one says, Dear Jessica, you said that addiction in a spiritual sense is about negative ego alignment. What do you mean by this? This is from Taylor in Kentucky. Yes, everyone knows I'm in recovery. I'm very open about it. And when I say it's about being aligned with your negative ego is different than the regular ego. It's the part of you that feels inferior and is like addicted to self-sabotage. It thinks everyone's better than you. And so this manifests a lot when we talk about addiction, which is really a disease of fear. And so it takes place in that form. But I will say, Taylor, just kind of my PSA announcement, there's so much help out there for addiction. So if you're suffering at all, do remember it is a disease. I know there's a lot of negative perceptions about it. People think it's like bad character traits or bad morals or all these things. Trust me, it is a disease. And I just hope that you get whatever help you need. So anyway, I want to thank Trisha again for being on the show. Do something significant. Check out the class. Like I said, all the teachers have free master classes and learnings on there you can download and do. In the meantime, I will see you next month. Next month, we have Master Spiritual Teacher Tej Kalesa on, and that's going to be on October 19th. And I can't wait, but I'm signing off for now. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. Bye for now.
We hope this episode helped you take a step closer to find your soul purpose. We will be back in 3 weeks on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern on the uimediaapp.com, WDJY 99.1 FM, WTTA 101.2 FM, Talk10FM.com, and Facebook Live on United Intentions, Spreaker, and many other platforms. Jessica Joins is happy to hear from you, so make sure you watch and share her show, and also write to her on Facebook with your comments, suggestions, and questions. Wherever you are in life, it's never too late to uncover what makes you happy. Let us help you find your soul purpose.
The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.